My name's Ethan. I'm 34, and I've always been the dependable sibling. Not the standout, not the troublemaker, not the cherished one. Just the guy who arrived punctually, settled his debts, and never forgot a birthday. I work in accounting, live by myself, and tend to keep things low-key. My family, they're boisterous, tightly bonded in a showy sort of way, and experts at acting like everything's perfect while ignoring real issues. I've always been on the fringes, present, but never fully included. The kind of person you invite to a wedding but don't ask to pose for pictures. Growing up, my brother Lucas was the golden boy. Charming, impulsive, and always stumbling into some mess. Yet he somehow always came out unscathed. He had this cocky allure that my parents adored. Even when he quit college, lost 2 jobs, and moved back home at 28, they still treated him like he was destined for greatness. Meanwhile, I funded my own education, held a steady job for over a decade, and chipped in for their mortgage when Dad's work hours were slashed. But none of that ever seemed to count, at least not enough to earn me a real place in their spotlight. I tried not to let it bother me, or so I convinced myself. I stayed focused, sent the money, answered their messages, showed up for gatherings, and grinned through the subtle digs disguised as humor. "Ethan, you're so uptight. Relax, it's just a party. We assumed you'd be swamped. You're always at work." I brushed it off. Part of me clung to the hope that if I kept showing up, one day I'd be truly seen as part of the family, not just the one bankrolling it from the sidelines. That hope crumbled last autumn. It began with a dinner. Lucas had just proposed to a woman named Claire, whom my mom already called a blessing, and my parents decided to host a lavish engagement celebration at a chic downtown rooftop venue, not their usual budget, which should have been a red flag. A few weeks prior, my mom called. "Ethan, honey," she said in that sweet tone she uses when she needs a favor. "We'd love for you to come to Lucas and Claire's engagement dinner. It's going to be unforgettable." I agreed without a second thought. "Send me the details." Then, hesitantly, she added, "If it's not too much, could you help secure the reservation?" "Just to lock it in. We'll cover you later, of course." I should have known "we'll cover you" meant I'd never see that cash again. But as usual, I said yes. I contacted the restaurant, reserved a private area for 20 guests, and provided my card for the deposit. It didn't faze me. Not really. It was Lucas's moment. And maybe, just maybe, this time I'd feel like I belonged. On the night of the dinner, I arrived right at 7 p.m. I wore a sharp charcoal suit, crisp shirt, and new cufflinks I'd saved for the occasion. I brought a fine bottle of Prosecco for the couple and a personalized card with their initials. The hostess gave me a slight nod and pointed to the private section. I took a deep breath and stepped in. The venue was stunning. Fairy lights strung above, elegant floral arrangements on every table, a jazz trio playing softly in the background. And there they were, my parents, Lucas, Claire, her relatives, and a few friends. Drinks in hand, they were laughing, chatting, toasting. I approached with a smile, expecting at least a glance of acknowledgement. Instead, Lucas turned to me with that familiar, smug smirk. "Hey, good to see you," he said, barely noticing the Prosecco. Then he gestured to a folding chair tucked by a waste bin. "Sorry, this table's for family only," he said with fake pity. "But we saved you a spot over there." I froze. I thought it was a joke. I glanced at Mom, who offered that tense smile she uses to avoid conflict. Dad gave an uneasy laugh and sipped his drink. Claire didn't even look my way. Then a few people chuckled. I stood there, stunned, wanting to speak but feeling my throat tighten. My face burned. I was 13 again, excluded from a family photo because I didn't match the vibe, so I walked to the chair, placed the Prosecco on the floor, and sat. I didn't remove my jacket. The server approached and asked if I was with the group. I nodded wordlessly. He left a glass of water and moved on. For nearly 2 hours, I sat there as they laughed, gave toasts, and opened gifts. I watched Lucas deliver a heartfelt speech about being surrounded by his nearest and dearest. I saw Mom tear up when Claire called her the ideal future mother-in-law. No one checked if I wanted to order. Dessert arrived, a towering cake with edible silver leaf. The band played a gentle melody. The city skyline glowed, and I realized no one had glanced my way in over half an hour. Then the bill arrived. I saw the server approach their table with a sleek folder. He paused, checked the card on file, my card, and started toward me. "Sir," he said quietly, "the total for the event is $3,156. Should I charge the same card for the balance?" Everyone turned to look. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah," he said nonchalantly. "Ethan's covering it." The server looked at me. I gave a calm, deliberate smile. My voice was even. "Not my table," I said, loud enough for all to hear. "I was told this was for family only." The silence was deafening. Lucas's jaw twitched. Mom frowned, puzzled. Dad sat up straighter. Claire's father raised an eyebrow. The server hesitated. "Sir, you booked the reservation?" I did. I nodded. "And I paid the deposit. But I'm not with them. I'm here." At the side table. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and nodded toward the bin. Where I apparently belong. The room felt like it had imploded. The server stood frozen, bill in hand. Lucas looked stunned. Mom's eyes darted between me and the folder, realizing her plan was unraveling. "Wait, Ethan," she said, her voice unsteady. "What's this about?" I shrugged. "Just following the seating arrangement, Mom. Lucas said this was for family only. I assumed I wasn't part of it." The server cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, but we need to settle the bill to close the tab." Silence. I turned and headed for the stairs, skipping the elevator. That's when Dad spoke. "Ethan, come on. You've already paid half. Just take care of it." I stopped. That "just take care of it" broke something inside me. I turned back. "You're right, Dad. I paid the deposit. I called 4 venues to find one with the view Lucas wanted. I scheduled it around his sports games. I ordered custom centerpieces because Mom said plastic ones would look tacky in photos. I paid the $450 non-refundable deposit without hesitation." I stepped closer, voice low but clear. "And I showed up on time, alone, to celebrate my brother. What did I get? A folding chair by a trash can and a family-only jab." I looked at Lucas. "So now you figure it out. You and your real family." Lucas's face reddened. He stood, trying to regain control, but it only made him look foolish. "You're causing a scene." "No," I said. "I'm setting a boundary." And I walked away. I took the stairs, each step fueled by adrenaline and disbelief that I'd finally stood up. Outside, the cool air hit me like a wake-up call. I loosened my tie and kept walking, directionless but certain I wasn't turning back. I thought that might be the end. A dramatic exit, maybe a few half-hearted apologies later. But the fallout was just beginning. That night, as I sat at home, still in my suit, clutching that unopened Prosecco, my phone buzzed. First, a text from Lucas. "Dude, really? You couldn't just pay and talk to me later?" Then another. "You humiliated us in front of Claire's family." Was that your plan? Payback? Then a call from an unknown number. It was Claire. "Hi," she said softly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said warily. "Did you really pay for everything? The deposit? The flowers? All of it?" I paused. "Yeah," she sighed. "They told my dad you offered. That it was your idea." I felt a chill. "I never offered," I said. "They asked. I agreed. I didn't expect repayment, but I didn't do it for clout." Claire exhaled. "My dad's livid. He thought you volunteered as a generous gesture. Now he's saying he wouldn't have picked that venue if he'd known it was funded by someone they sidelined." I stayed silent. "He said they made him look foolish." She added, "I'm not trying to stir drama. I just thought you should know." I thanked her and hung up, but the consequences snowballed faster than I expected. The family group chat, usually buzzing with holiday plans and random memes, exploded. Mom, "Ethan, we need to talk. Call me." Lucas, "You screwed things up with Claire's family. Fix it." Dad, "This is getting ridiculous. Just say sorry and let's move on." I didn't respond. It wasn't just the chair or the bill. It was years of being the fallback, the errand runner, the ATM. And now that I'd said no, they were lost. What made it worse, or better, was that Claire's father wasn't one to let disrespect slide. A friend of Lucas's, Nate, who'd always been kinder to me, filled me in. Mr. Bennett, Claire's dad, had a breakdown the next day. He'd funded Claire's education, backed her business, and wanted a flawless engagement season. But he learned the groom's family lied about the payment, humiliated their own kin, and left him to cover half the bar tab after I refused the rest. Nate said Mr. Bennett told Claire at breakfast, "If they treat their own son like that, what happens when you're part of their family?" The fallout hit Lucas hard. Wedding plans stalled. Claire moved back to her apartment for space, and the vision boards disappeared. Mom, in crisis mode, sent me a lengthy email. Subject, "Please." It was a masterclass in gentle coercion. How she never meant to upset me, how she didn't know I felt left out, how it would mean the world if I'd meet Lucas to patch things up, but no apology. Just, "We didn't realize," and "Let's not let one night ruin our connection." I stared at our connection. What connection? The one where I drove 4 hours on Christmas to deliver gifts because Lucas was too stressed to shop? Or when I skipped my Portugal trip because Dad needed surgery and they couldn't afford a caregiver? Or when I co-signed their car loan, which Lucas still drives? I left the email unanswered. Then my Aunt Lisa, Mom's sister, called. She's a tough, pragmatic woman who owns a design company and always seems slightly unimpressed. We hadn't talked in ages. "Ethan," she said, "I heard about the dinner." "Of course," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I'm not here to lecture you," she said. "I'm saying well done. It's about time someone rattled them." I blinked. She sighed. "Your parents always smooth things over. Pretend it's all fine. But they've relied on you too much, too long. And Lucas? He's been allowed to treat you like a doormat forever." "Thanks," I said softly. "But why call now?" "Because the Bennetts are involved," she said dryly. "Your mom's freaking out. She asked me to talk sense into you." "And?" "I told her you don't need sense. You need room, and maybe they need to learn to stand without leaning on you." For the first time, I felt seen by family. Not as a resource or a punchline, just me. That night, another text from Lucas. "Bro, Claire's dad canceled the venue deposit. Said we don't share values. Fix this. Not please help. Not I'm sorry, just fix this." I realized he still saw me as his fixer, so I fixed something for myself. I logged into the joint account I'd opened when Lucas was jobless. He still used it for his subscriptions. I transferred the remaining $2,000 to a new personal savings account and closed the joint one. The next morning, Lucas called 5 times. When I answered, he was frantic. "What did you do?" "My card's not working. The account's gone." "I know," I said. "I shut it down." "You can't just—" "I can," I said. "You said I wasn't family. You don't get to use my money if I'm not at the table." He sputtered, then pivoted. "You're jealous. Always have been. You're mad I get the spotlight." I laughed. "You think Mr. Bennett's on your side?" Silence. Then, "You'll figure it out, Lucas." "You always do. Maybe Mom can co-sign another loan, or Claire's dad can teach you to stand on your own." I hung up. Hours later, an email arrived from Claire. Subject: we should talk. I hesitated before opening it. It was detailed, polite, but raw. She said she hadn't noticed how I was treated until the aftermath. Her father was outraged, not just over the lies, but the disrespect. He said, if they can publicly shame someone who paid for the night, I need to rethink who I'm marrying into, she wrote. Claire said Lucas brushed it off as a mix-up, but the restaurant's invoice, which her dad requested, exposed the truth. Lucas claimed I volunteered, said I wanted to sit alone, said I left for work. I called the restaurant myself, she wrote. It wasn't true. Then, I ended the engagement last night. I reread it. She said it wasn't just the dinner. It was a pattern. Lucas's entitlement, his dismissive comments about me, his refusal to take accountability. He said you overreacted, she wrote. But you were the one with dignity. She closed with, I'm not here to cause a rift or drag you in. I just wanted you to know I see it now, and I'm sorry I didn't before. I sat with that, stunned to be believed. The next weeks were calm. The group chat stayed silent. Lucas tried calling twice, then stopped. I heard he moved back with our parents. Claire returned the ring. Her dad canceled all wedding plans. Then, one Sunday, a knock. Mom stood on my porch, holding a casserole dish, eyes red, makeup sparse. I opened the door slightly. I made you dinner, she said. I didn't take it. I want to talk. No excuses. I let her in. She sat at my table, hands fidgeting like when I was young. No deflections this time. I owe you an apology, she said. I crossed my arms. Just one? She nodded. Fair. More than one. She exhaled. I didn't see it because I didn't want to. Lucas is loud. He fills the room. You never demanded anything. You just stepped up. We started treating you like a backup plan. Backup plans, I said, are only noticed when people fall. Her eyes glistened. Your dad and I messed up. We let Lucas walk over you. We let you feel less. Thank you. We didn't linger. She left the casserole. I saw her out. She didn't push me to forgive Lucas or call him, just said, take care, and left. Things didn't magically heal, but they didn't worsen. My parents sent personal texts now, brief and considerate. Mom invited me to Christmas. If you're ready? I'm still deciding. Lucas is working a dead-end job, living with our parents, avoiding reality. He hasn't reached out. I'm fine with that. I started living more. I took that delayed trip to Portugal, bought new speakers, read about boundaries and family roles, started therapy, not because I'm shattered, but because healing isn't about waiting for apologies. It's about telling yourself you deserved better, and you're giving it to yourself. I didn't pay that bill. But I settled a lifetime of unspoken debts. Now I'm at my own table. And it's enough. Thank you for watching Story. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories.